Get him out before my investors see him. Richard Vale never raised his voice. Men like him rarely had to. The words moved across the crowded lobby of the Whitmore Grand with the quiet authority of a signed check. And within seconds, 3 people had decided that an old man in a worn brown coat no longer belonged beneath the crystal chandeliers. Rainwater darkened Samuel Whitmore's shoulders and gathered beneath his scuffed shoes. In one hand, he held a sealed envelope softened at the edges by the storm. In the other, he gripped an old brass key marked with the number 001. Around him, luggage wheels clicked over polished marble, glasses chimed behind the bar, and guests hurried toward the founder's night reception without looking twice. Samuel approached the front desk and spoke gently. "I'm here to see my daughter." The receptionist glanced at his coat, then toward Claire Voss, the lobby operations manager. Claire arrived wearing a patient smile that looked kind from a distance. "Do you have a reservation, sir?" "No." "An appointment?" "She knows me." "Her name?" Samuel paused, his breathing shallow. "I'd rather tell her myself." Claire's smile remained, but something behind it closed. "This seating area is reserved for registered guests. Security can help you find a more appropriate place to wait." "I only need a chair." "You need to move." "He said he needs a chair." Malik Turner's voice came from beside a half-open floor lamp near the west wall. He was kneeling beside his maintenance cart, a voltage tester in one hand, his navy work shirt marked with a small Whitmore Grand patch. Claire turned slowly. "Mr. Turner, return to your assignment." Malik looked at Samuel, not at her. The older man had placed one hand against the desk to steady himself. Malik set down his tool, unfolded the small metal chair strapped to his cart, wiped the seat with a clean cloth, and placed it behind Samuel. "Take your time, sir." Samuel lowered himself carefully. Richard Vale glanced toward a group of suited investors entering through the revolving doors. "Claire, this is exactly what I was talking about." Claire stepped closer to Malik. "Remove the chair. He's dizzy. That is not your determination to make. Then call someone qualified." For a moment the lobby seemed to inhale. The chandelier light trembled across the wet marble. Somewhere above them, the red indicator on security camera C4 went dark. Claire folded her hands. "This is a private property issue. We are protecting the comfort and safety of our guests." Samuel looked up at her. From a seated old man? Grant Mercer, the head of security, approached with 2 officers behind him. His expression was controlled, his tone almost courteous. "Sir, we're going to ask you to come with us." Malik moved his maintenance cart aside and stood between Samuel and Grant, leaving several feet of space. His hands remained open at his sides. "He hasn't threatened anyone. Step away, Turner. Not until someone confirms he has somewhere safe to go." Claire removed a form from her tablet and tapped the screen. "You are now suspended for interfering with security procedure." Malik's face did not change, but the words landed heavily. He thought of the rent due Friday, the grocery list on his refrigerator, and his 9-year-old son waiting in the employee room after their sitter canceled. Samuel studied him with tired, searching eyes. "You know this may cost you your job?" Malik glanced at the folded chair beneath him. "A chair shouldn't cost anyone their dignity." Grant took another step forward. The revolving doors turned behind them, pushing a gust of cold, rain-scented air through the lobby. A black woman in a charcoal suit entered quickly, a silver oak leaf pin fastened near her collar. Ava Whitmore had returned from the airport 2 hours early. Her eyes moved from Claire's suspension notice to Malik standing quietly in front of the old man, then to the brass key marked 001 resting in Samuel's hand. Her briefcase slipped against her leg. The entire lobby waited. Ava's voice broke into a whisper. "Dad." For one suspended breath, no one moved. Then Ava Whitmore crossed the marble floor so quickly that the heels of her shoes struck like a clock counting down. She stopped beside the folding chair and lowered herself until her eyes were level with Samuel's. "Dad," she said again, this time with certainty. Samuel looked at her, but he did not smile. He lifted one weathered hand and pointed toward Malik. He gave me the only seat your hotel had for someone like me. Claire stepped forward before Ava could answer. Miss Whitmore, there has been a misunderstanding. The gentleman did not have a reservation. He would not identify the person he claimed to know, and our security team followed standard procedure. Grant nodded. He became agitated when we offered assistance. Malik's voice remained low. He asked for a chair. Mr. Vale asked for him to be removed. No one asked whether he needed help. 3 sentences. Nothing more. Ava looked at Grant, then at Claire, then toward the dark security camera above the west wall. Preserve every recording from this lobby. Security footage, access logs, staff messages, incident reports, and badge activity. No deletions. No corrections. No summaries. Claire's expression tightened for less than a second. Of course, although camera C4 lost its signal at approximately 4:15, Ava turned slowly. I did not ask when it lost signal. Grant's jaw shifted, but he said nothing. The quiet that followed felt different from the silence after Ava had called Samuel her father. That first silence had been shock. This one carried doubt. Richard Vale approached with a practiced look of concern. Ava, I am sure your people were trying to protect the atmosphere of the event. Ava did not look at him. The event can wait. She asked a concierge to bring a wheelchair, but Samuel refused it. He stood carefully, using the back of Malik's folding chair for balance. As he rose, the sealed envelope slipped from beneath his coat and landed near a shallow puddle of rainwater. Malik bent first. He lifted it by the dry corner, took clean paper towels from his cart, and pressed them gently along the damp edge without disturbing the seal. This should hold, he said. Samuel accepted it with both hands. You take care with things that are not yours. Malik glanced at Claire's suspension notice. That does not make them unimportant. Ava heard him. Her face softened, but only briefly. Mr. Turner, you will leave the property for the remainder of the investigation. Malik's shoulders lowered. Then she added, it will be paid leave. Your access records and work device will be secured, not erased. You will submit your statement directly to outside counsel. Claire opened her mouth. Ava raised one hand. Not through lobby management. Malik nodded once. He did not thank her as though she had done him a favor. He walked toward the employee corridor, where his 9-year-old son, Eli, sat beside a vending machine with a sketchbook on his knees. Eli stood as soon as he saw his father. Are we going home? Yes. The boy noticed Samuel passing with Ava and stared at the brass key in the old man's hand. Dad, that tree is on the old picture by the service elevator. Malik looked back. The key tag carried a small engraving of an oak split through the center. On the nearby wall, a faded photograph showed a young couple standing outside the first Whitmore boarding house. Above the door hung the same divided oak. Ava followed Eli's gaze. Those souvenir keys were copied for years, she said, more to herself than anyone else. Samuel closed his fingers around the number 001. This one was never sold. Ava led him toward a private sitting room, but he stopped at the doorway. Before you decide who was right, answer me something. She waited. Would you believe the maintenance man if I were not your father? Ava looked across the lobby at Malik, then at Claire, then at the dark camera. She had no answer. That evening, after Eli had fallen asleep, Malik opened his maintenance tablet at the small kitchen table to finish the report on the flickering floor lamp. The screen loaded slowly. Beneath the lighting work order sat another completed entry from earlier that afternoon. Camera C4. Signal test passed. 4:02 in the afternoon. Malik stared at the maintenance entry until the blue light of the tablet reflected in the dark kitchen window. Camera C4 had passed its signal test at 4:02 in the afternoon. According to Claire, it had been unreliable all day. Both statements could not be true. He checked the authorization banner at the top of the screen before touching anything else. His account allowed him to view work orders, equipment diagnostics, and maintenance alerts, but not security recordings. Malik stayed inside that boundary. He opened the camera service history and found no fault report after 4:02. No power loss. No damaged cable. No request for repair. Then he noticed a narrow gray line beneath the diagnostic record. Privacy override active from 4:14 until 4:21. 7 missing minutes. The exact 7 minutes when Samuel had been ordered out, when Grant had approached the folding chair, and when Claire had suspended Malik. The refrigerator hummed behind him. Rain tapped softly against the fire escape. From the bedroom, Eli turned in his sleep and pulled the blanket higher over one shoulder. Malik looked toward the hallway, thinking about rent, groceries, and the job that could disappear before Friday. Then he remembered Samuel asking whether doing the right thing might cost him everything. Malik reached for the employee badge beside his keys. On the back was the number for an outside compliance hotline. He called. Whitmore Hospitality Ethics Line. State your concern after the tone. Malik spoke slowly. My name is Malik Turner. I am on paid leave from the Whitmore Grand. I am reporting a conflict between a maintenance record and statements made during an incident in the West Lobby. He gave the work order number, the camera identification, and the 2 timestamps. He did not accuse Claire. He did not accuse Grant. He described only what the system showed. Then he used the secure employee portal to send a screenshot with the record number visible. The portal stamped the submission at 9:38 that evening. Across town, Ava stood with Samuel in the hotel archive room beneath rows of labeled boxes and framed photographs. She placed the brass key beneath a soft desk lamp. The number 001 had been stamped by hand, slightly uneven, and the green enamel inside the divided oak had chipped at the lower left edge. In a photograph from 42 years earlier, Beatrice Whitmore stood beside Samuel outside a 6-room boarding house. A brass tag hung from her belt. The image was grainy, but the same chipped corner caught the light. Ava touched the edge of the photograph. Why did you bring it tonight? Samuel kept the sealed letter against his chest. Because your mother believed Founders Night should still mean something. Ava looked away. Her telephone rang before she could ask more. The outside camera vendor was returning her call. At that same moment, Malik's telephone lit up with Claire's name. He answered. Her voice was warm, almost maternal. Malik, I do not want one difficult afternoon to damage your future. We can treat this as a misunderstanding and discuss a quiet separation package. The investigation has not started. That is exactly why we should be careful. Careful with what? A pause. Then Claire said, Those 7 minutes do not prove what you think they prove. Malik looked at the tablet. He had never told her the override lasted 7 minutes. I did not mention 7 minutes. The silence on the line lasted only a breath, but it was long enough. Claire recovered quickly. I am sure someone explained it to me. Who? Get some rest, Malik. The call ended. At the hotel, Ava listened as the camera vendor reviewed the remote system log. Camera C4 did not fail, the technician said. The feed was interrupted by a manual privacy command. Ava looked through the archive room window toward the west lobby below. Whose command? Keys clicked on the other end of the line. Samuel watched his daughter's face harden, not with anger, but with the cold weight of responsibility. The technician answered. The override was activated with Grant Mercer's security badge. Ava closed her eyes for 1 second. Could the system have done that automatically? No, ma'am. Another pause. That camera was not broken. Someone made it blind. By 8:30 the next morning, the west lobby no longer looked like a place built for comfort. The velvet ropes had been removed, the furniture had been marked with small numbered cards, and a scale drawing of the marble floor rested on a table beneath the dark camera. Ava had hired an outside labor attorney and an independent security auditor before sunrise. Claire, Grant, Richard, and Malik were brought in separately and told to reconstruct the incident without speaking to one another. Where were you standing? The attorney asked. Near the floor lamp, Malik said. Where was Mr. Whitmore? Seated on the folding chair. When did Mr. Mercer approach him? Malik looked at the diagram for several seconds. After Mr. Vale pointed toward the entrance, but I cannot give you an exact time. Did security touch him? I saw Mr. Mercer reach toward his arm. I did not see what happened after I stepped between them. The attorney made a note. Malik did not fill the silence with guesses. Across the hall, Claire placed Samuel near the revolving doors and said he had been pacing in a way that concerned guests. Grant gave nearly the same description, including the same phrase about erratic movement. Richard claimed he had barely noticed the old man at all. Their statements sounded polished. Too polished. The auditor studied the ceiling map and asked whether any other system might have captured part of the lobby. Malik pointed toward the west elevator. The elevator camera belongs to the transportation vendor, not hotel security. When the doors open, the brass panel reflects part of the seating area. Claire turned sharply. That image would be distorted. It would, Malik said. But the timestamp would still be independent. Ava ordered the vendor to preserve the buffer. No one was allowed to retrieve it from a hotel terminal. 2 hours later, an encrypted copy arrived with a verification record. The image was narrow and imperfect. The elevator doors opened for 14 seconds, showing a warped reflection across the polished brass. Samuel was seated. Richard stood near the reception desk with one hand raised toward him. Grant was walking across the marble. Malik had placed himself between them, his arms lowered, his body still. There was no sign of the sudden movement described in the security report. Grant leaned closer to the screen. That was before he lunged. The room went quiet. Ava looked at him. He never stood up. Grant's face remained controlled, but the color had left it. The angle does not show everything. No, the auditor said. That is why we do not rely on one source. In the archive room, Samuel's brass key was being examined under a magnifying lamp. The first property ledger listed 6 original room tags, each made by hand. Beside room 1, an entry read, brass tag 001, repaired by Samuel Whitmore after split at lower edge. The key on the table carried the same shallow repair line. Ava ran one finger near the mark without touching it. The key was real, so was the history attached to it. But neither proved what had happened in the lobby. That proof was growing elsewhere, layer by layer. The auditor compared the elevator timestamp with the camera override and the maintenance record. Then he opened the security incident file. This report was created at 4:12 in the afternoon, he said. Claire folded her arms. Grant may have opened a blank template in advance. The subject line was already entered. Ava stepped closer. On the screen were 5 words written 4 minutes before Grant approached Samuel. Transient male, possible agitation. Samuel had not spoken to security yet. Malik had not unfolded the chair. The alleged disturbance had not happened. Ava looked from the timestamp to Grant. Why was he classified before anyone questioned him? Grant inhaled slowly. We prepare for likely situations. The auditor clicked the revision history. The original report had been opened under Grant's badge, but a second user had accessed it less than 1 minute later. Claire Voss. Then another line appeared, hidden beneath the document metadata. The phrase aggressive movement toward security had not been written during the incident. It had been added 23 minutes afterward. The room remained silent as the auditor enlarged the revision history. 23 minutes after Samuel had been labeled aggressive, Claire had added the sentence that made the report sound dangerous. Who authorized this change? Ava asked. Claire did not look away from the screen. Incident reports are clarified after staff compare observations. That is standard practice. Clarified, Malik said quietly. Or rewritten? Claire turned toward him with the same patient expression she used in the lobby. Mr. Turner, emotions are not evidence. Neither is a sentence added after the fact. 3 voices. 3 short answers. Then the room settled beneath the low hum of the ventilation system, every person suddenly aware of the distance between what had happened and what had been recorded. The outside attorney requested the company message archive. Claire had deleted the relevant conversation from her telephone, but the hotel server retained a compliance copy. At 4:12 in the afternoon, she had written to Grant, Clear the west lobby before Vale's investor reel. Grant had answered, opening a disturbance file now. 2 minutes later, Richard Vale's communications assistant had begun filming a promotional clip near the fountain. The original video had automatically uploaded to a cloud account before anyone realized it mattered. The picture showed only Richard's shoulder and part of the reception desk, but the sound was clear. "Get him out before my investors arrive," Richard said. Claire answered, "We will handle it discreetly." No one mentioned safety. No one mentioned a threat. They had decided Samuel was a problem before he had done anything at all. Richard leaned back in his chair. "That statement has been taken out of context." The attorney paused the video. "Then provide the context." Richard offered none. Later that afternoon, Malik was called into a separate conference room. A human resources representative placed a revised statement in front of him. The document described Grant as attempting to assist Samuel and called Malik's intervention an unfortunate misunderstanding. "This wording protects everyone," the representative said. Malik read each line slowly. "It does not say what I saw. It is more neutral." Malik took a pen and drew one firm line through the sentence. "A softer sentence can still be a lie." He rewrote the statement in his own words, initialed every change, and sent a copy directly to outside counsel. Across the hotel, Samuel sat with Ava in the archive room. The sealed envelope rested between them beside the brass key. "Why did you come without calling?" Ava asked. Samuel looked at the old photograph of Beatrice. "Because your mother wrote this before she died. She wanted you to have it on Founders Night." Ava's hand moved toward the envelope, then stopped. "Why wait until now?" "Because I kept hoping you would remember what this place was built to be." Before Ava could answer, the auditor entered carrying a list of reopened files. 11 security incidents from the previous 9 months used the same language, the same disturbance template, and the same unexplained camera interruptions. An elderly veteran had been sent outside because his coat looked worn. A delivery worker had been questioned for waiting near the elevators. A woman using a wheelchair had been redirected through a service entrance even though the main doors were accessible. Each complaint had been closed within hours. Each closure improved Claire's performance score. Ava read the names one by one, her face growing still. "These could be unrelated," Claire said from the doorway. "Then we will verify every one," Ava replied. The auditor placed the final page on the table. One complaint had been filed 3 months earlier by a witness who said an older housekeeper had been denied the main elevator while suffering leg pain. The complaint had been dismissed because the sender could not verify any relationship to the property. Ava looked at the signature line. Only one initial and one last name appeared there. S. Whitmore. Samuel lowered his eyes. Ava looked from the page to her father. "You reported this before." Samuel nodded once. "And your system decided my words did not matter." Ava read Samuel's complaint again, slower this time, as if the page had changed while she was looking at it. It had not. The same plain words remained. An older employee in pain had been denied the main elevator. A witness had asked for help. The complaint had been closed without an interview. At the bottom, Claire had written, "Complainant could not verify relationship to the property." Ava placed the paper on the table. "Why did you not use your full name?" Samuel looked toward the old photograph of Beatrice. "Because I wanted to know whether the truth mattered without the name attached." Claire stood near the archive doorway, composed but pale. "One poorly handled complaint does not prove a system." The auditor opened another folder. "No. 11 He spread the records across the table. Each one carried different names, different dates, and different circumstances, but the pattern repeated with almost mechanical precision. A complaint appeared. A disturbance report followed. A camera entered privacy mode. The case was closed before the person who reported it received a call. Malik joined them by secure video from home, his maintenance logs displayed beside the incident records. He compared the camera interruptions to the work order system. "This one was marked electrical maintenance," he said, pointing to a date in March. "No electrician was scheduled." He moved to another. "This one says lens cleaning." The supply closet record shows no cleaning kit checked out. The auditor asked, "Are all of these false?" Malik shook his head. "I cannot say that. Some overrides may have had a valid reason. But the records do not support the reasons entered here." He did not reach past what he could prove. That restraint carried more weight than accusation. Ava examined the executive performance dashboard she had approved 9 months earlier. Claire's department received higher scores for closing complaints quickly, protecting guest satisfaction ratings, and preventing negative comments from reaching premium clients. There was no measurement for whether a complaint had been investigated fairly. No question asking whether the person affected had been heard. Only speed, appearance, and silence. "I did not tell anyone to do this," Ava said. Samuel's voice remained gentle. "A system learns what its owner rewards." The words settled heavily. Claire stepped forward. "We were under pressure to protect the brand. Guests like Mr. Vale expect a certain environment. Employees understood that." "Employees understood what we measured," Ava replied. "And I approved the measurements." For the first time, she did not place the entire failure on someone beneath her. She opened the weekly executive summaries and compared them with the original complaints. Samuel's report was missing, so were 6 others. A message from Claire to Grant appeared in the archive. "Too much. Transparency creates reputational risk." Another note instructed managers not to elevate complaints from people without reservations unless there was visible injury or police involvement. Ava closed the laptop. "You decided dignity required proof of purchase." Claire's calm expression cracked at the edges. "I kept this hotel running. You kept the numbers clean." The room went quiet. Dust floated through the light above the archive table. Samuel reached for Beatrice's sealed letter and placed it in front of Ava. This time, she opened it. The paper inside carried her mother's careful handwriting. Ava read silently until one sentence stopped her. "A hotel is not ours if the tired are afraid to sit." Her eyes closed. When they opened, the hesitation was gone. "Founders' night is cancelled," she said. Claire stared at her. "The investors are already arriving. Then they can hear why." Ava ordered the promotional stage removed from the lobby. The employee meeting would remain, but the doors would stay open. Outside counsel, the board, the security vendor, and representatives from the reopened complaints would be invited. The evidence would be presented where Samuel had been humiliated. No private settlement. No polished statement. No quiet disappearance. Malik listened from the screen. "This will cost the hotel," he said. Ava looked at the performance dashboard one final time. "Then the cost belongs to us." That evening, an email arrived in Malik's inbox from Claire. The subject line read, "A better path forward." Inside was an offer for a supervisor position, higher pay, a schedule that would let him pick Eli up from school, and education assistance. The final paragraph asked only that he describe the lobby incident as a misunderstanding caused by poor communication. Malik sat at his kitchen table, reading the offer twice. It was everything his family needed. Then he reached the last sentence. "Accepting this agreement will help prevent unnecessary review of older matters." Malik read the offer a third time while the washing machine turned slowly behind the kitchen wall. Supervisor position. Higher pay. A schedule that would let him meet Eli outside school instead of asking neighbors for favors. Education assistance that could cover the after-school program he had quietly stopped considering months ago. Claire had not threatened him. That was what made the message dangerous. It sounded reasonable, generous, almost kind. Only one sentence asked him to trade the truth for comfort. Eli entered the kitchen wearing mismatched socks and carrying the small desk lamp Malik had promised to repair. "Are we still fixing this?" he asked. Malik closed the laptop halfway. "In a minute." Eli studied his father's face. "Did something bad happen?" "Someone offered to help us." "That sounds good." "It would be, except they want me to use words that are not true." Eli placed the lamp on the table. "About the hotel?" Malik nodded. He did not explain contracts, investigations, or the weight of a job. His son was 9. He deserved honesty, not the burden of adult fear. I saw what happened, Malik said. Now someone wants me to call it something smaller. Eli turned the lamp over and touched the strip of black tape wrapped around its cord. You said a bad wire does not get better because we tape over it. Malik looked at him. The boy was not delivering wisdom for an audience. He was repeating something his father had told him while repairing a toaster the previous winter. That is right, Malik said. Eli pushed the lamp closer. Then do not tape it. After Eli returned to his room, Malik opened the laptop again. He forwarded Claire's email to outside counsel and wrote one sentence. I will testify to what I saw, nothing more and nothing less. He did not ask Ava for protection. He did not ask for the position Claire had offered. He pressed send and accepted that doing the right thing might still leave him unemployed. At the Whitmore Grand, Richard Vale stood before Ava's desk with 2 attorneys and a letter threatening to cancel every future development contract connected to the hotel. You are turning a manageable guest service issue into public humiliation, he said. Ava placed the letter beside the reopened complaints. The humiliation already happened. Then issue an apology and move forward. You mean move quietly? Richard adjusted his cuff. I mean protect the business your family built. Samuel sat near the window, his worn coat folded across his knees. He did not tell Ava what choice to make. When Richard left, he asked only, when the truth costs you something, who will you be? Ava looked toward the lobby below, where workers were removing the Founders' Night banners. I have spent years believing leadership meant preventing disorder. Sometimes, Samuel said, it means refusing to hide it. A call came from outside counsel. Grant Mercer had requested a private interview. For nearly an hour, he answered questions with careful, measured language. He admitted Claire told him to prepare the disturbance report before approaching Samuel. He admitted the privacy override was used to prevent guests from recording an uncomfortable scene. He also admitted that Samuel had never threatened anyone. Why did you write aggressive movement? The attorney asked. Grant stared at his security badge on the table. Because it made the report easier to defend. Did Claire force you? No, the answer cost him more than an excuse would have. She expected it. I chose to do it. His cooperation would not erase his responsibility, but it closed another escape route in the chain of evidence. By late afternoon, Ava confirmed the lobby meeting. The board, outside counsel, the security vendor, employees, and several people connected to the reopened complaints would attend. Richard arrived with his attorneys. Claire entered carrying a binder and the calm expression she wore when she believed procedure could protect her. Grant came without his security badge. Malik arrived holding his original statement and the maintenance report from camera C4. He paused near the folding chair he had given Samuel, now placed beside the evidence table. Ava stood at the revolving doors as staff began pulling them shut against the evening rain. She raised one hand. Leave them open. Claire looked toward the gathering crowd. This should be handled privately. Ava met her eyes. No closed doors tonight. The open doors allowed the sound of rain to move through the lobby as employees, board members, attorneys, and former guests took their seats. There was no stage, no banner, and no polished music. Only a long table, the folding chair Malik had placed beneath Samuel, and a small brass key marked 001 resting beside Beatrice's letter. Ava stood behind the table with outside counsel to her right and the independent auditor to her left. Samuel sat in the front row wearing the same brown coat. Malik stood near the maintenance display, holding the original work order. Claire sat upright with her binder closed. Richard remained beside his attorneys. Grant sat alone. Ava began without ceremony. Samuel Whitmore is my father. He helped build the first property that became this hotel. A murmur moved through the room, but Ava raised one hand. His identity explains why I recognized him. It does not prove what happened. She placed the key beneath the document camera. The first property ledger appeared on the screen, showing the matching number, divided oak, chipped enamel, and repair line. This establishes history, Ava said. Now we address conduct. Malik stepped forward. His voice was calm. Camera C4 passed a full signal test at 4:02 in the afternoon. There was no electrical failure, damaged cable, or repair request after that time. The vendor log appeared next. At 4:14, a manual privacy override was activated with Grant Mercer's badge. It ended at 4:21. Grant lowered his eyes. The elevator recording followed. Its reflection was narrow, but clear enough. Samuel remained seated. Richard pointed toward him. Grant approached. Malik stood between them with his hands down. Claire opened her binder. That angle does not show the entire event. Correct, the auditor said. That is why there are additional sources. The cloud video played. Richard's voice filled the lobby. Get him out before my investors arrive. Claire's answer followed. We will handle it discreetly. Richard leaned toward his attorney. That was a request to preserve order. Ava looked at him. What disorder had occurred? He did not answer. The next screen showed the disturbance report created at 4:12, 4 minutes before Grant spoke to Samuel. Transient male, possible agitation. Then came the revision history. Aggressive movement toward security had been added 23 minutes later. Grant stood slowly. Mr. Whitmore never threatened anyone, he said. I knew the wording was inaccurate. I entered it because I believed it would protect the hotel. Claire turned toward him. You were responsible for your report. Yes, Grant replied, and you instructed me to prepare it. 3 voices, 3 truths. Then the room grew still beneath the soft mechanical hum of the chandeliers. The auditor displayed the 11 reopened complaints, the repeated camera interruptions, the copied language, and the messages showing that complaints from people without reservations were kept from executive review. Ava placed the performance dashboard beside them. This system rewarded fast closure, premium guest satisfaction, and visual presentation. It did not reward truth. I approved it. That responsibility is mine. Claire finally opened her binder. Every decision I made was intended to protect this property and the people whose business keeps it alive. Samuel looked at her from the front row. A place does not stay alive by deciding which people deserve to be seen. Claire's voice tightened. Without clients like Mr. Vale, there would be no hotel to protect. Samuel answered quietly. Without the people you refuse to see, there is nothing worth protecting. Ava announced that Malik's suspension record would be removed and his pay fully restored. Claire's access was revoked pending termination for altered reports, concealed complaints, and retaliation. Grant was removed from command and referred for professional review. Richard's event contract and preferred status were canceled. All 11 complaints would remain open under independent investigation. No one applauded. Ava turned toward Samuel. That man is my father. She looked across the room at the former guests, the employees, and the folding chair. And this would still be wrong if he belonged to no one. The air seemed to leave the lobby. Richard lowered his eyes. Grant removed the badge from his pocket and placed it on the table. Claire closed her binder because there was nothing left inside it that could answer the evidence. Malik noticed Samuel shifting carefully and pulled the folding chair closer without interrupting the silence. Ava watched him, then said, Mr. Turner, I am not offering you a reward tonight. I am asking whether you will review a written proposal to help rebuild our facilities and guest dignity procedures, with independent oversight and fair compensation. Malik nodded once. I will read it. Samuel placed the brass key on top of Beatrice's letter and handed the envelope to Ava. Read the final line when you are ready to change more than this evening. 3 weeks later, the Whitmore Grand looked almost unchanged from the street, but inside, the rules that had once protected appearances were being rewritten to protect people. The independent investigation confirmed that Claire had altered reports, concealed complaints, misused camera privacy controls, and offered Malik a benefit in exchange for softer testimony. Her employment was terminated. Grant lost his command position and all security access while his professional conduct was referred for review. His cooperation mattered, but it did not erase his choices. Richard Vale lost his preferred guest status, and the hotel accepted the financial loss of ending his event contracts. Ava signed every decision herself. She did not call it courage. She called it responsibility. The 11 closed complaints were reopened, corrected, and reviewed by people who had never worked under Claire. Each person received a specific written apology, not a copied public relations statement. Fees were refunded where appropriate. Transportation costs were repaid. No one was asked to pose for a photograph or praise the hotel for fixing harm it should never have caused. The new policy required 2 approvals before any lobby camera could enter privacy mode. A manager named in a complaint could no longer close that complaint. Employees were allowed to pause a procedure when following it would humiliate someone or place a vulnerable person at risk. Speed was removed from the complaint score. Listening was added. Malik returned as facilities systems supervisor after reviewing the proposal with outside counsel. The position matched the work he already knew: maintenance records, building systems, vendor accountability, and camera safeguards. He also accepted a temporary place on the guest dignity review group, but only after Ava put the authority, pay, and limits in writing. "I do not want a favor," he told her. "Good," Ava replied. "I am not offering one." On his first afternoon back, Eli sat at a lobby table finishing his homework while Malik repaired the floor lamp that had flickered on the day Samuel arrived. Eli had brought a small hand-painted sign. Ava read it before he placed it beside a row of new chairs. "For anyone who needs to sit." "Did your father help you write that?" she asked. Eli shook his head. "He only fixed the spelling." Across town, Ava visited Samuel's woodworking shop on a quiet Sunday morning. Sawdust rested on the windowsill, and Beatrice's letter lay open between 2 cups of coffee. Ava read the final line aloud. "Do not inherit the building and lose the welcome." Her voice trembled, but Samuel did not rush to comfort her. Some wounds needed honesty before grace. "I thought keeping the hotel successful meant keeping everything under control," she said. "Control is not the same as care," Samuel answered. Ava looked at him. "Can we start again?" Samuel considered the question for a long moment. "Breakfast next Sunday," he said. It was not complete forgiveness. It was something more believable. A second chance with a date and a place. Back at the hotel, the brass key marked 001 rested inside a simple glass case. The plaque beneath it did not mention wealth or ownership. It read, "The first key opened a room. Respect keeps the doors open." Near sunset, an older delivery driver entered from the rain carrying a heavy canvas bag. His coat was worn, his breathing tired, and his paperwork was not yet ready. No manager approached to ask whether he belonged. Malik saw him looking toward the chairs. He set down his voltage tester, pulled one chair away from the wall and said, "Take your time." The man thanked him and sat. Ava watched from the mezzanine but did not call a photographer. Samuel, seated near the window in his old brown coat, gave Malik a quiet nod. Eli looked up from his sketchbook. "Is that man important?" Malik returned to the lamp and tightened the final connection. The light stopped flickering. "He is here," Malik said. "That is enough." No one applauded. Rain touched the glass, the lobby lights burned steady, and a chair moved softly across the marble for the next person who